Hello, I'm Alex and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is a channel where I talk about what I've been knitting and sewing each month, and I'm going to put my cup of tea down because it's incredibly hot. I've just literally just poured it right before I sat down. So I've got a cup of tea and I've got some projects to share with you. Usually I start by telling you what I'm wearing, but today I'm going to start with an apology because if you watched last month's video you'll know I had some tech problems and the sound was so bad. I'm really sorry to anyone who couldn't hear or did struggle through it. I know that it wasn't ideal. I think my thinking behind putting it out was that I had recorded several times, I'd spent quite a bit of time putting it together, and it seemed a shame to just sort of put it in the trash can. So I decided to put it out and thought if a few people enjoyed it, then it wouldn't have been for nothing. And I think there were some people that were able to enjoy it and still listen, even though the audio quality was really bad. But I'm not sure it was a good move because I think it will probably hurt my sort of standing with YouTube, because if not a lot of people are engaging with a video, say they're just watching a few minutes and then clicking away, it sort of sends a signal to YouTube that there's something in that video that's not good, and it sort of puts a black mark against your name, I think. So yeah, if you're watching this today, it would be great if you could give me a little boost. If you enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already, and yeah, it would be great if you could leave a comment, let me know what you're working on, where you are in the world, and yeah, that would just give me a little bit of a boost, and YouTube will realise that I'm not someone that puts out bad content all the time. So yeah, I think I'll just jump straight into the projects. I'll let you know what I'm wearing. If you've watched before, you'll recognise the top that I've got on. This is the Rift Tee by Jacqueline C. Slack that I knit using the Fiberco Luma in the Sherry colourway, and I'm actually wearing this with a handmade skirt today. So I'll step back, so I'm not sure, can you get a full length view of that? It is a very simple, just elasticated waist skirt. I actually didn't use a pattern, it's a tutorial that I followed where you use the width of the fabric, you literally just seam it straight at the back, hem it, there's no side seams, it's just that one seam at the back, and then you use elastic to gather the waist. So really simple. If you're a new sewer, this would be a perfect project to have a go at for the first time. So I'll leave a link to the tutorial in the show notes, and if you're looking for those, they'll be below the video. There'll be a link that'll take you over to my blog where the show notes will be, and I also have an email for anybody that wants to know when these videos go live. I have a special newsletter just for those people, and anytime a video goes up I send an email and I put all the show notes in that email. So if you are someone that likes to look up what the patterns and the yarns and the fabrics are that I'm talking about, that might be something you're interested in. So yeah, check those links out below the video. And the first thing I think I'll show you is I've got a finished object. So since I spoke to you last time, I've actually released some new bags. So I've done these really nice fresh green bags for the spring, and this is the top handle tote, and I've got this size. I will show you quickly. I've got a drawstring bag in the same combination of fabrics, and I have a tote bag here. This is absolutely fit to bursting with yarn at the moment, but this is what the tote bag looks like. I'll just show you for scale so you can see what it looks like when it's on. If you were wanting to carry it around with you, it will fit over the shoulder. It is slightly smaller, I'd say, than a regular size tote bag. It fits loads of yarn in. But yeah, I've got canvas on the bottoms of these, so if you are someone that likes to take your projects out with you, then these are really good because they're a little bit more durable than my usual bags. Yeah, if you're new here, I make project bags, so that might not be something that I mentioned, but yeah, I design and print all the fabrics myself, and I sew project bags for makers, so there'll be a link to my shop below. But in terms of what's inside, I've got these beautiful mittens, and I'm going to pop them on. They're not blocked. I don't think I blocked these. No, I haven't, because I've woven in my ends, but I haven't clipped the tails yet. But I think they look great when they're on. And these are a Danielle George of Little Bobbins pattern, and I knit these using Cascade Heritage, and I hope that you can see how beautiful they are. I feel like this pattern, the photos just don't do them justice. They are so interesting. It has a very interesting texture. You can kind of see that it's got the pattern to remind you of those kind of faded quilts that you might have had passed down through the family, or something that you've made. If you love that kind of shabby chic aesthetic, you might have one of those faded quilts. But it's a really interesting pattern, very fun to knit, really simple. It has a folded down cuff, so you can fold that up if you want to, or you could knit them with a shorter cuff at the top. But yeah, lovely pattern by Danielle. I really, really love these. I have, how long? I think I did show you a sneak peek, because when I knit these, I was actually testing the pattern for Danny, and she, yeah, she kindly gifted me the pattern to test. And I don't usually do test knits. It's not something that I've ever signed up for, but Danny's a friend, like a real life friend. We live quite near each other, so we've met in real life as well. And she reached out and asked if I wouldn't mind testing it, that she had this new pattern and she was trying something new, because I think she's done lots of sock patterns, but this was the first mitt she'd done. And obviously it has this kind of quite it's quite technical to get this. I think it's probably this section of getting the thumb to work with the pattern, which it does beautifully. It's a really nice way of creating the thumb, and it doesn't interrupt the pattern at all. But yeah, she reached out and asked, she wanted a few people to test it, that she, yeah, and she asked me to do that, and because she's such a good friend, I said yes. So I was really happy to do those, and I love the colour. I used, I think this is called Mustard. It's Cascade Heritage, which I've mentioned here so many times before. I sound like a walking advert for them. I bought loads of skeins of this yarn a while ago, so I could film a video showing all the different bag sizes I have and what would fit in each one. So I've been slowly working my way through that stash, and yeah, this is one of the projects that I thought I would use for that. And this colourway, I'm pretty sure, is called Mustard. I will make sure that I put the right colourway. I'll check all the details for the show notes. But I actually not sure I would really call it a mustard. I always think of mustard as more a grungy kind of yellow, but this is a very clear, bright yellow. And yeah, it's a very sunny colour. And I like the yellow because I actually have a kind of khaki colour waterproof jacket. And I thought these would be such a nice pop of colour out my sleeves. So yeah, really happy to have these off the needles and to finally be able to share them with you, because I think when I had them last time I just kind of showed a little peek of the ribbing out the top. But yeah, if you're interested, get the pattern. I'll leave a link to that below. There's a sock pattern in the same texture, so it has that faded quilt. I think they're called the faded quilt socks, which are the same as the faded quilt mitts. So if you're not into knitting mitts but you want to have a go at the socks, I think you'd really enjoy those. So I'm going to pop those to one side and show you what else I've got in here. This is basically the bag that I've had sitting next to my chair and it's got all sorts of bits and pieces in it. So yeah, the next thing I've got is, if you have watched for a while, you'll recognise this colourway as my pheasant pullover. This is Jameson & Smith 2-ply jumper weight yarn, and I knit the pheasant pullover, not sure when I knit this, but it was quite some time ago, and I recently caught it in the kitchen. We've got this, you know where the handles are on the drawers? Right in front of the sink there's one of those handles, and it's so frustrating because it's not even a working drawer, it's a fake faux handle that is there, and every time when I'm washing up I catch my clothes and I've pulled so many things, and this, sadly, I caught it and I managed to rip the hem, and somehow it kind of busted right at the back here. Don't know how, but I got a hole as well. So don't know if this will show up at all because I have repaired it, and I think it's testament that it will be quite tricky. Right, it's here, so I can see from the inside. It's right here is where the repair has been made, and basically I started a little way out from the hole where it had torn, and I kind of followed, I think maybe you call it like a duplicate stitch. I kind of think of them as smiles and frowns if you're looking from the inside. So I went with a tapestry needle and the yarn, and I went through and kind of kept winding my way round over the hole and tried to catch in any little bits, any loops or anything that I could see and mimic the existing fabric. So very happy to have done that, and it tore at the hem, and let's see, can't see where that is. I did leave the tail so I'd be able to show you, but I can't see it. That's ridiculous, isn't it? Well, oh, there we go, there's the tail. So yeah, I just pulled out a little way of the binding and started binding up again with a new yarn, and yeah, my sweater is fixed, so I'm very, very happy about that. And I thought I would just share that, although it doesn't look any different. You didn't see the damage, it's not like a tutorial or anything, but I thought it'd be good to mention it because you might have sitting in a basket somewhere some clothes that need a little bit of TLC and something that needs repairing, and I don't know why, but we all do it, we all put it off, and it's so good. This literally took a few minutes. I can't tell you how quick it was to do. It literally took just a few minutes to repair it, and I've got one of my favourite sweaters back. This is such a favourite sweater that I was actually wearing it with the rib, and this is such a great kind of grippy yarn. It's very, very woolly. It's 100% Shetland wool, and yeah, I just knew it wasn't going to unravel significantly. So even though it was ripped, I was still wearing it around the house because I love it. It's one of my favourites. It's a very good weight for wearing at home because it's quite thin, but it's so cosy. So you get all the warmth, but you don't have the bulk. So very, very happy with that. Let me pop that over there, and I will show you my socks next. So in one of my Spring Bee sock sacks, I have got At the Vicarage socks. Actually, yeah, I've got my sock blockers here. Let me pop this on a sock blocker. Haven't blocked this, and it will just show the lace off a little bit more easy if I stretch that a little bit. You should hopefully be able to see the lace pattern there. It's a really, really simple pattern to follow, and I've talked about these a few times. I've knit these before. I hope you don't find it too boring that I keep knitting the same thing, but honestly, that's just how I am as a knitter. I really like, once there's something that I enjoy and I wear, I just want it in different colours, and I want to, yeah, I want to use the patterns that I've got. So I hope that's not too boring for you, but I have talked about these before. I've mentioned how much I love this heel. Very simple heel to knit. It's so easy to do, and I just want all my socks to have that heel now. So really enjoying that, and I'll show you in my little DPN cozy. I've got the beginnings of sock number 2. So yeah, I've just got the little toe and have started working a few rows of the pattern. If you can do sort of very simple increases and decreases, it's really simple pattern, and I find that I'm able to really easily see where I am in the pattern, what I've done the row before, and just have to kind of glance at it to know where I am. And that's very much like an evening TV knitting time for me when I'm tired and I just want to have a nice project that keeps my mind busy, because obviously I do need to count stitches as I'm going, but genuinely it's just a really nice, very simple, sort of easy project to work on that I feel comfortable with. So hopefully by the time I see you next, I'll have a second sock and I'll be able to wear those, because yeah, it's always nice to have a fresh new pair of socks, isn't it? And if I didn't say, the yarn for those was a Cascade Heritage Solids as well. I believe that was grey colourway. I'll leave the colourway number below. Next up, I have got a new blanket. So this is in one of my Spring Bee bags. I have got all my Spring Bee bags back in the shop, and when this video goes live, I'll have restocked the sock sacks, which haven't been in for a while, so really happy to have those back. And I thought it was a lovely bag to keep this in. I am doing a Twinkle Twinkle baby blanket, and it's really hard to show you, but basically you start at the centre and work your way out. So that's why it kind of looks this funny kind of shape, because it's all bunched up on the needles, but that's where you start. You start in the middle and it just grows and grows and grows. And I've knit this before, and it's a really lovely baby blanket. This is the first time I'm using this yarn, so it's a very lovely dusty pink, and it's Debbie Bliss Baby Cash Merino, which is a 55% wool, 33% acrylic and 12% cashmere blend. And this is the yarn that Helen uses in the pattern. And previously I've used a bamboo blend. This is my first time using the yarn that Helen's actually written the pattern for. But my mum has been knitting one of these blankets as well for my niece or nephew who's going to be born this summer, and she was using the same yarn from the pattern, and it's knitting up so nicely. It's really soft and cozy and the texture looks beautiful, so I thought I would have a go at using the same yarn. So I thought the mum would really like this. It's a lovely dusty pink. I don't think Kerry watches my podcast, but I know that Leslie, her mother-in-law, granny to the baby, does watch. So Leslie, you're getting a little sneak peek of the blanket that I'm knitting for baby Poppy, so you have to keep that secret until I get to visit and gift that to them. So really excited to be able to gift that. Last time Kerry had a baby, I made my quilt, which has been one of my most popular pages on my website. I have so many people looking at the quilt that I made. I did a really simple tutorial on how to use, I don't know what you'd call it, I think maybe it's like a whole cloth quilt where you use just one piece of fabric for the front and for the back, and then you quilt to join those pieces together and do a simple binding. And yeah, I've used some really lovely fabrics for that, and that was very well received, and I know they use that lots for little Rose. They've used it as a playmat, and yeah, it's really been nice to see them using that lots. So I thought it would be great to welcome baby Poppy with a little blanket. So I think I bought 5 skeins. I'm sure the pattern calls for something like 7, but I want to make mine smaller than the pattern. I want it to be the kind of blanket that you'd throw over the car seat or the baby bouncer, something that you can kind of use every day. And I think that'll be a really usable size. So I'm just going to keep going till the yarn runs out. And the bit that I just showed you, I've literally just started maybe, I think last night, I joined the second ball and then was knitting all evening. So it's just over 1 skein of yarn, that piece that you saw. So it's knitting up quickly, and because it's a pattern I've used before, it came back to me really easily what you have to do. It's a great pattern because it has the stars that create the texture, but a lot of the rows are just plain knitting. I can't remember exactly, I think maybe it's like every 6th round you do the star. So lots of the rows are just very simple knitting, and as we know, I've been practicing knitting without looking, so this is something that I can kind of work on and don't have to look at what I'm doing when I'm doing the plain rows. So that's helping me with my practice of that skill as well. Okay, what else have I got? I've never finished showing you what I had in here. So last time I think I mentioned that I'd ordered some yarn from West Yorkshire Spinners. Here's the ball band. It's called Elements, and it's 60% lyocell, 40% Falkland Isle wool. So this, I believe the tencel it's kind of like a wood pulp or something that the lyocell is made from, and it's sustainably sourced, and the forest is sustainably managed, and it seemed like a really, really interesting yarn that I thought would give me the right kind of texture for what I was knitting. So I have 2 patterns in mind, the Moonset Tea by Ozetta and Urchin by Libby Johnson of Truly Myrtle. And since I've knit this up, I've done a couple of different needle sizes, and I think this is going to be perfect. I really don't think you'll probably be able to see this on camera. The sun has just decided to come out as well, so maybe if the sun pops behind a cloud, might be able to show you a little bit more easily. But yeah, this is basically white, so I feel like it's just going to bounce the light from the cameras and you maybe won't see the stitch definition, but it has a real sheen to it. It has a lovely, very soft feel, and I think it's gonna be just what I need for the Moonset Tea. So I had thought this was going to be for Urchin. I swatched for Urchin using DMC Natura, which is a linen blend, which is what Libby uses for Urchin. Let's see, what was it? 58% linen, 26% viscose, and 16% cotton. So that's the ball band for that one. And yeah, I believe that this is the exact same colourway that Libby used, and I just wasn't 100% keen on the kind of variation in colour and texture of this. So I was looking for something a little bit more even, but this looks too even. It's kind of gone the other way. It's so even that this actually reminds me more of the yarn that I think it's Hayley at Vozetta has used for her design. So, oh, you might be able to see that. The sun's gone behind a cloud. You might be able to see that a little bit better now. It's always hard. Whenever I'm looking back, I'm always on the camera saying, oh, I don't know if you can see that. And usually you can see fine. So I wish I would just stop saying that and just hope that it works out. But this yarn, I think, is really similar to the look of the Moonset tee. It's not the same yarn at all because I think it is 100% silk. It's what did she use? Knitting for Olive, silk, and yeah, this is a different, quite a different makeup to that. But from how it looks in the picture, I think the drape is similar, and I think it would be a really nice yarn to use. It definitely has that kind of summer feel. I think it feels warmer than linen fabric. Definitely feels warmer, I think, than the linen that I used for the Urchin. Yeah, this has a more sort of cooler hand and definitely feels more rustic. But yeah, so I think I've got a contender for the Moonset tee, and yeah, I was able to use to order that while I got my Jamieson Smith, so that was great. I found that while I was ordering, this yarn has been out of stock everywhere. I found it in a store called Fine Fettle online, and yeah, everywhere, even Jamieson Smith's site is out of this colourway, and found this shop, Fine Fettle, who did have this colour. And so that's a good tip if you've been wanting to knit my pheasant pullover and haven't been able to find that yarn anywhere. It's at Fine Fettle Fibres, and I was able to order that, and thought I wanted to add something, so all I needed was this one skein, and I was browsing around to see if there's any things I wanted to add to my order to sort of just bump it up for paying the shipping. The shipping was more than this skein of yarn, I think, so I came across that Elements, and I really like West Yorkshire Spinners. I'm using that for my hand sweater by Julie Hoover, and that's knitting up beautifully. Really like that yarn, so I was excited to try something different from them, and I was really pleasantly surprised. So I think that's yeah, that's the knitting bits. I was going to show you, it's not really craft related, but another thing I did over the Easter holidays was I did this puzzle, and I thought I'd show you because it might be something you're interested in as well, because I picked this because I love the illustrator Victoria Ball, and I've noticed that she has illustrated a few different puzzles for different companies. So this is a Gallison one called Greenhouse Gardens, but I think I'm going to have to start collecting all of her puzzles out there because I love her artwork, and I haven't done a puzzle since I was a child. I know that a lot of people throughout the pandemic were doing puzzles, and I kind of missed that boat, and for some reason I've started now. But yeah, when I saw this, I just had to have it, and I thought it'd be really fun, and I enjoyed it so much. It really is one of those mindful things that you can't think of anything else. While you're searching for the pieces, it just takes all your focus, and I just couldn't stop. I kept walking away from it and just getting drawn back to try and do another piece, another piece, another piece. So yeah, if you are interested, you'll have to have a look. I'll leave a link. I'll see if I can find somewhere that has that. I bought this one on eBay because I probably will sell this one on as well. I'm not sure if I would necessarily keep them. I'll probably let that go to another good home, because once you've done a puzzle once, I'm not sure I would pull it out and do it again. I'd really like to, I'll probably sell that on and then buy another one. As I say, she's done quite a few, so I would really like to go through. There's a series I think she's got of like shop fronts. Yeah, just there's some really nice illustrated pieces. So yeah, so that was something different I've been doing. And the other thing that I was going to mention was that I have been working on some new designs for this summer. And it was probably a couple of weeks ago now, because it wasn't this week, but I've been joining a drawing club online by Modern Botanics is the Instagram handle. She hosts every week on a Wednesday a drawing club, and the idea is that she sort of hosts and she's on camera drawing, but the idea is that everybody does a drawing alongside her and you work on something. And it's been so good to get me into drawing every week, because it's one of the things that's so easy to put off because it doesn't feel like real work. The sewing and all the other bits that I have to do and the packing of the orders and the accountancy stuff, that feels like work, and the drawing doesn't, but obviously it's a really integral part for designing and creating new products. So one of the things I did while I was in her drawing club last week was I drew a chicken, and kind of sparked this thing that I thought I would maybe do a whole series on a kitchen garden. And I put that little chicken drawing up and asked what you think, and loads of people were really into it. There were a few people that said they preferred flowers, so if you were one of the people, I saw quite a few of my customers were people that actually said they prefer when I stick to flowers. So don't worry, I did see you there, and I really have this great idea that I think that I could build this out into a series and kind of have lots of plants and flowers, but also I wanted to kind of work on this chicken theme. So I'm not sure if this will show up all that well on camera. There I go again, talking about how things are going to show up on camera. But this is a really sort of rough idea of something that I had, and just to give you an idea of what I'm working on. And it feels really weird to show you something that doesn't it feels such an early stage to be showing my work, but I think it's really nice if you do get a little peek at what I'm working on and see maybe where it starts, because it will probably be very different, and it certainly will be different when I put it onto a bag, because as you might know, I screen print all my fabrics and I tend to work in a palette of doing black with gold accents, so these are obviously very illustrated and there's colour, so it would be a case of stripping that back down to a more basic form and shape and colour, and I think it could be really interesting. So that's a little look at what's been going on behind the scenes, and that's everything that I've got to show you today. I really hope you enjoyed that. It was lovely to sit down and catch up and chat. I hope I haven't had any more technical gremlins in my camera this week, because that was awful. I actually filmed this yesterday. I was still having technical problems, so I'm keeping everything crossed that this video has worked out, and that if you enjoyed it, you give it a thumbs up and you let me know what you're working on in the comments. Don't forget that I've got the links to everything that I talked about today in the show notes, and there'll be a link to the shop as well. So if you liked any of the project bags you saw today, you can shop those below as well. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.